If you're brand new to knitting and you want to make a more interesting project than just a scarf, well, I have just the project for you, my friend. This cozy shrug is so simple, but you'd never know it by looking at it. With just knits and a little bit of time, you'll be well on your way to a finished project. The step-by-step tutorial is coming up. We'll start this one off with the long tail cast on, so get yourself a nice long tail, placing the yarn over the needle, and gather it in your hands like this. Steady the yarn with your finger and swing the needle down to catch the loop on your thumb, swing it up to catch the loop on your finger, and then release your thumb loop over the tip of the needle. And keep going. Now this shrug is available in 3 different sizes, so you'll want to refer to the pattern to get the specific number of stitches to cast on for the size you want to make. Now you can view the pattern for free on my website, or if you'd prefer to have a copy in hand to print or save for later, you can pick up the PDF from my shop. I'll have a link to both options in the description below, so you can do what works best for you. Alright, when you have all your stitches cast on, flip your work and knit the first stitch. And that's as complicated as it gets. Knit the next stitch and each remaining stitch in this row. So for this pattern, we're working the garter stitch, which will give us great texture and a ton of stretch, which is what we need for this to fit properly. And it's as easy as knitting every stitch of every row. So you can really concentrate on your tension and just enjoy the process. No complicated repeats here. At the end of the row, flip your work again and knit every stitch. That's what you'll do for every single row. So like I mentioned before, this entire project is worked in garter stitch, so to keep going, you'll simply knit every stitch of every row until it measures a certain length from your cast on edge. Now that length, as you probably guessed, is determined by the size you're making, so once again, refer to the pattern for that specific number. When you have the full length knit up, you'll have a big rectangle with loads of stretch and squish. Now for the bind off, go ahead and knit the first stitch and knit the second stitch as well. Then pass the first loop over the last. Then knit the next stitch and pass the first loop over the last. And keep going with that until you have only one loop left on your needles. By the way, if you're struggling to keep that one loop on your needle, it really helps if you sturdy it there with your finger to keep it from sliding off too. When you have just one loop left, trim a nice long tail, around 24 inches or so will do the trick, and pull up on the loop and feed it through. Next, we'll use this tail to seam the 2 ends together. But first, we need to make that twist you see at the front of the shrug. To do that, we're building it into the shrug instead of just twisting it when we put it on. So we're going to add a twist before we sew the 2 ends together. So lay it out flat and simply flip one side over, so you have just one twist. Then bring the 2 ends together and you're ready to seam. Now you can really seam any way you like. A whip stitch works really well. Or you can do just a simple back and forth seam like I'm doing here. A little tip here to check the opposite end a few times to make sure it's still lining up. It does like to shift as you're making those seams, and that'll cause you loads of trouble if you don't realize it until the last second. Alright, when you're done seaming, you have just 2 ends to weave in. And I like to do that along the seam so it stays hidden a little bit better. That's all for now, friend. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today, and I hope you really enjoy this little project. If you have any questions about this project or the supplies I used, be sure to check the description below for a link to the pattern. You'll find all the details there. Also, if you haven't subscribed yet, well, I would love to keep inspiring you to make something that'll make you happy. So hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one. Oh, and one more thing. If you want to see a more behind-the-scenes look into this project, tap the video here and you can see what went into the designing of it. Cheers.